fly in my throat, so to speak. Or is it a frog? I don't know. So there's this tradition every Yom Kippur in Israel, or Yom Kippur, depending how you pronounce it. It's a holiday where observant Jews fast for 24 hours and spend a lot of that time in synagogue and pray for forgiveness and atonement for things we've done wrong, people we've injured by word or physically hurt in any way, or transgressions against God, or things of that nature, right? Things we could have done better. And the hope is that we're signed into the book of life for the coming year, right? And that we have a good finishing signature, if you will, for what happened in the past year, and that it will inscribe us in the book of life for the coming year. And okay, apart from the religious aspect of it, whether you believe it or not, or are religious or not, it doesn't matter. There's a cultural tradition particular to Israel, a place that is full of life and where a lot of traffic happens to be a regular occurrence on practically every road, even in relatively quiet neighborhoods. As a car goes right by me right now on a relatively quiet street in a relatively quiet place. And the tradition is that people of practically all ages, but especially kids, obviously, ride their bicycles. And I say obviously because a lot of kids in Israel like to ride their bicycles to get around, since obviously they're not old enough to drive themselves to and fro from their friends' houses to their houses, other places they like to hang out. Go to the park, go to the mall, go to the whatever it might be, playgrounds, clubs, after school activities, basketball courts, walk around the fields, walk around the forests, whatever it might be, right? A lot of things for kids to do in Israel. It's actually one of the reasons that it's considered to be a country with a very high quality of life, is that unlike many other developed nations where a lot of kids and teenagers often don't actually have access to that many great things to do beyond school life, in Israel, it's one of those countries where you do actually have quite a lot to do. Now, I will say that in many G8 countries and other developed nations, there actually is a movement, subtle as it is, country by country, to improve those things, which is nice to see. But here in Israel, it's been that way since practically as long as this country's been a country. There's always been activities for the kids to do. It's a very kid-centric country in that sense. And yeah, so there's this tradition of riding your bicycles around, even in the middle of the street, where normally you wouldn't ride them around because of car traffic. But on Yom Kippur, you'll find that there's very little car traffic. Most people do not drive on Yom Kippur. Exceptions are people in emergency situations like ambulance, police, fire, military, and obviously if anybody has to rush somebody or somewhere in their own personal car. So or there's just people who just drive because they don't really care about, observing the customs or whatever. And it's perfectly legal to drive on Yom Kippur. It's just not done by most people. So as a result, you see people literally of all ages riding around on bicycles, just having fun getting around on the streets where there typically are no cars, very few cars. You still have to be careful because, again, the occasional car can be coming through wherever you're riding on the road, but it's pretty rare. So it's a day that you see a lot of kids and parents walking around circles, squares, intersections, where typically there would just be cars. Going on highways where typically there would just be cars. And enjoying riding their bicycles in places they don't usually get to ride their bicycles. Now, why do I mention that? Well, because this year, because of the war and everything, things have changed a little. Especially if you live in an area where it's frequently attacked by rockets. So this year, we're still likely to see a lot of people go out and ride their bikes, but there's a good possibility or probability that they'll be doing it closer to home, or at least close to where they know there are shelters. So if you think that just because we have an iron dome here, that life is all yay, no problems. No, we still have to think about things like rocket attacks, even during the day that religious people consider to be the holiest day of the year. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.